Hey, hi, and howdy, sweet friends. Welcome back to my channel, or if it is your first time, welcome here. My name is Courtney, and I do a lot of food and kitchen content. That's like weekly grocery hauls and these what's for dinner style videos. So if you like that kind of stuff, then I hope you'll hit the subscribe button and stick around. Today is my what's for dinner style video. And it was Thanksgiving week, so we were traveling and things like that. So this is a short one, and I'm basically made like one big meal, one breakfast, and then like a dessert slash breakfast, depending on how you want to look at it. So let's kick it off with the first thing, which is our meal. So I wanted to make $1 million spaghetti, but you guys know how I am about following recipes. I do a little bit of use what you have and a little bit of use what you like. And at the end of the day, it kind of turns into what I want it to be. So I'm going to link the recipe for $1 million spaghetti down below so you guys can see how it's made, and I'll show you how I make mine. I started off with a pound of ground turkey. Of course, you can make this with no meat at all, or you could use ground beef. That's up to you. Ground turkey is super affordable, so if you're looking for a budget-friendly alternative, it is $1.98 a pound at my Walmart. That is absolutely unbeatable. So that is why you see me using ground turkey here. I like to crumble it just like ground beef and cook it all the way through. And then I added in one small onion that I diced. And then we're going to make this tomato sauce. But when you make a tomato sauce, you kind of need to sweeten it if you're using canned tomatoes because they're really, really acidic. But I thought, you know what, instead of adding in like sugar or something, I just grated in a carrot. I used my microplane to do it. And it was just like a medium-sized carrot, but it added the perfect amount of sweetness. Next, I threw in some garlic. Now, I use confit garlic, which I make, and I have that link down below if you're interested in making it yourself. But you could use garlic, or you could just like mince up a clove or two of fresh garlic or throw in some garlic powder. It's up to you. Same with the onion. If you want to sub onion powder, that is fine. Next, because we are using ground turkey, I want to beef it up. So I added in some beef bouillon because we are going to add a little water in a minute. That way it just kind of has an extra beefy flavor. After that, I threw in a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, and then I threw in about an additional cup of water just to kind of get this moving. It was fairly thick at that point. I have this spaghetti, Italian spaghetti seasoning here. I buy it at Sam's Club. It's pretty good. It's like got Italian seasoning in it, like the herbs and stuff, and then some garlic and onion and things like that. It's really flavorful. I like it. So I threw some of that in, and I just let that simmer. Now, while it's doing its thing, I did get going on the breakfast casserole. So I have 1 pound of bacon, and I just diced it up and threw it into a skillet. I know it looks like it's stuck together now, but I promise just let it cook. It's going to fall apart, and it's going to make the most perfect crumbles. It takes probably about 20 to 25 minutes. I do it on a low heat, but it turns out perfect every time. All right, there's our sauce. It has been simmering. As you can see, the flavors have kind of melded together. So I am adding in about 2 cups of dry pasta, maybe 2.5. These don't sit very well on my measuring cup just because of the way that they're shaped. So I added just a little bit extra in because it looked a little light there. So 2 to 2.5 cups. Now I have my 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes plus a cup of water. And now I'm going to add in an additional 2 cups of water. And that should be the appropriate amount of liquid to cook the pasta. I'm just kind of winging it on this one because I've done a 1-pot pasta before, and I'm just kind of roughly using those measurements, and it did work out absolutely perfectly. So I added in the liquid, and then I just let this simmer until the pasta was fully cooked. It took probably about 15 minutes or so for it to come back up to a simmer and to cook the pasta all the way through and just kind of absorb some of the water. I do like cooking my noodles in the tomato sauce, though, because it does really get that flavor cooked right on into it. So while the sauce is simmering and my bacon is still cooking, I got started on the cheese filling that goes into $1 million spaghetti. I've seen various recipes. Some do what I'm doing here, which is using cottage cheese, and some of them use ricotta cheese. Some of them make more of like a bechamel sauce. I'm doing cottage cheese. You can get a low-fat cottage cheese, and it's a lot higher in protein. So that was just why I opted for it. But I have taken about a cup of cottage cheese, and I'm going to season it with some salt and some pepper, a little bit of Italian seasoning. You can kind of throw in whatever you want. If you have some fresh herbs, that's fine too. I just have the dried ones, which is also great. If you want to throw in like some fresh garlic or something, that's perfect. I skipped on the garlic just because my sauce is so flavorful. But I did add in some shredded parsley or some dried parsley there. I just really like adding parsley to things. I don't know, maybe it's the color, I'm not sure, but I really enjoy that pop of something there. And I also added in about half a cup of Parmesan cheese. I just used the green shaker tub. And now I'm going to use my little immersion blender to break up the cottage cheese. You don't have to do this. It does not have to liquefy and become a sauce. My husband cannot stand cottage cheese. So I am doing this because if I do it this way, he'll eat it and he'll be fine. Just like when I make the high protein ranch dressing with cottage cheese, he loves it. He's great. I think it's the curds that he doesn't like. So as long as I just blend them up, it doesn't bother him. So that's what I've done. I did add in a little bit of cream there. You can add in milk if you want to, just something to kind of thin it out just a little bit. I had this big thing of heavy cream in my fridge, so I just reached for that because it made sense. But I'm adding that in just to thin it out just a little. You want this to be like spreadable so we can spread it as a layer onto our casserole in a minute. And again, ricotta would work perfectly for this. It doesn't have to be cottage cheese. That was just what I opted for because I thought it would be, like more protein, a little bit healthier, things like that. All right, the noodles are still cooking, so I popped back over. Our bacon was done, so I took it out and drained most of the grease out of the pan. I left a little behind, and then I threw in some shredded potatoes. These are Simply potatoes. I buy them when they're on sale and toss them in my freezer. They freeze beautifully. You can buy frozen shredded potatoes. You can shred your own. You can use cube potatoes. Whatever you want to do is fine. Just a potato product is really nice. I do like to go ahead and salt and pepper my potatoes because they can be super, super bland. And then I'm adding in some green chilies. Now, these are roasted green chilies. I live in Texas. We're really close to the New Mexico border. So during Hatch chili season, it goes on here too. And they do all kinds of things with Hatch chilies. I usually will buy the roasted Hatch chilies. They roast them in front of a couple of grocery stores here. I will buy a bunch of those and then I just freeze them. I put them in airtight bags and freeze them so I have them for a whole year. But a can of diced green chilies works just as well. It's just a really good flavor. It pairs beautifully with potatoes and bacon. Just trust me on that one. All right, I'm letting the potatoes cook and get a little crispy. So our noodles are finished cooking. You want them to be al dente, not mushy. Definitely al dente because this is also going into the oven. So we don't want to overcook them. I put half of the pasta down in a layer on the bottom of my casserole dish. I did spray it with some nonstick spray just because some of the stuff I was afraid would stick. And then once I've got that spread out into a nice thin layer, we've got our meat and our sauce and everything. I went ahead and added in all of that cheesy goodness that we made. This cheesy layer was so good. It was like the perfect creamy texture in the middle of this casserole. I really, really enjoyed it. The first time I made $1 Million spaghetti, I used a recipe that called for cream cheese, and the cream cheese flavor to me was so overwhelming. I have avoided ever making it again because I did not enjoy that. I've recently discovered it's a strong flavor, and in some dishes I don't care for it. With that knowledge, I thought I would try this way, and I'm going to tell you guys, oh my gosh, it was so good. My husband thought this was like lasagna because of this beautiful creamy layer in the middle, and he was like, hey, this is really good lasagna. I'm like, it's not lasagna. But overall, it was definitely a winner. Once I had spread that cheese layer out, I put the other half of the pasta on top. I was just careful to make sure I had everything in a nice even layer, and I sealed that cheese in just so it would be like in the middle and it would stay there. And of course, if you wanted to add some mozzarella cheese or something into that middle layer, you totally could, but I'm going to put cheese on the top. So I opted to just do that instead. Now, as far as topping this goes with cheese, you can use whatever cheese you want to use. I was just trying to use up some of the things in my fridge, so I'm doing an interesting combination of a Colby Jack cheese with some Havarti cheese because I had a couple of slices of Havarti that needed to be used and some cheddar. You'll see that in just a minute. Just use what you have. Mozzarella is great too. Back over to our potatoes. They have crisped up beautifully and the peppers have heated through, so I tossed in most of my bacon. I didn't put in quite the whole pound, but I put a lot of it in there. And I'm stirring it around just to kind of pull it together, so it's all cohesive and things. And that is the base for our breakfast casserole, and it's good to go. I turned the heat off and left it. All right, back to our $1 Million spaghetti. I'm topping it now with that Colby Jack cheese I talked about. And I'm going to say, sometimes I'm really weird about mixing cheddar with Italian food. I don't know why, but it blended beautifully. It was perfect. So if you think it's weird, give it a try. I also thought it was kind of weird, but it worked out really well for me. And the Havarti was actually really good too. It melted better than I expected. So just kind of play around with what you have in your fridge. This is a great casserole to use up things. So if you had like some extra zucchini or something like that, this is a great casserole to just throw it in there and get it out of your fridge. Don't let it go bad. Vegetables hold up beautifully. If you've got like some leftover pepperoni or something, that would be great in here too. So I liked this a lot just because I thought it could be really versatile and I could use up a lot of things that I might have on hand. Once that was done, I baked it at 350 for 30 minutes. All right, back to our breakfast casserole. You guys saw the potatoes, bacon, and green chilies are done. I am now scrambling up a dozen eggs, and I'm going to season them with a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper, just because, eggs can be bland sometimes. But if you wanted to add more stuff in there, that would be great too. If you want them spicy, toss in some, I don't know, red chili flakes or something like that. I gave this a really good stir. I did make sure to spray my casserole dish. Eggs can stick, so I sprayed it with some nonstick cooking spray. I'm not adding any cheese in here, but if you want to, knock yourself out, add some cheddar cheese on top, or it's another great opportunity to throw some cottage cheese in with those eggs and use your immersion blender to liquefy it. Those will be some beautiful cheesy eggs. And if you don't like cottage cheese, you're not going to notice that cottage cheese flavor, but it's really going to make them creamy and delicious. So just keep that in mind. I didn't this particular day, but I wish I would have, because that is always really, really good. I spread the potatoes and bacon and green chilies evenly across the bottom. Try to make sure like your bacon is evenly distributed so you don't get a bite that's nothing but bacon and then a bite that's nothing but potatoes. We want like a little bit of everything in every bite if we can make that happen. So I kind of just moved some of the bacon around because I noticed it had kind of clustered in one of the corners. Once it is the way you like it, we can go ahead and top it with those eggs. And again, if you wanted to add cheese, you could do it now or you could do it in the end. It's up to you. I used to always put cheese on this casserole. I don't now because my oldest son does not like it. So that's the only reason. But if you wanted to, cheese is fantastic on here, especially like a pepper jack cheese. So good. Make sure your eggs are like all over the place. I had one corner that for whatever reason, the eggs just were not going. So I did make sure and move everything around with a fork. The eggs are what solidifies the casserole. Got to have them everywhere. Pop that in the 350-degree oven until the eggs are set. It usually takes me about half an hour. While that was working, I made this dessert/breakfast. This is a great breakfast for like Thanksgiving morning or Christmas morning or something. It reheats beautifully. It's so easy to make, but it's also a fantastic dessert, and that's how my family likes it. So I took 3 tubes of cinnamon rolls. You could use more or less. It really is up to you. And then I like to cut them into 6 pieces. So I cut them in half one way and into thirds a different direction. I'm sure you could tell here that there's a lot of hands going on. I have 2 younger children and they like to cook. So I had them in the kitchen with me today learning how to make this casserole because everybody loves this casserole. We did do all 3 of the cans of cinnamon rolls. The next time I make it, I'm going to tell you because there's 6 people in my house. 3 cans was really barely enough. So next time I think I'm going to do 4 cans and see how far that goes. Everybody loved this. There was not a single person in my house that did not love this casserole. And when you see how much butter and whipping cream we add in, you'll understand why. But I'm going to tell you guys, it is so good. If you like Center of the Roll from Cinnabon, this is the casserole for you. I love Center of the Roll. Oh my gosh, love that ooey gooiness. And this is like Center of the Roll at home. So I just went ahead and chopped these up. You could leave them whole if you want to, but I like it better when they're chopped. That is like that center of the roll feel. And then I spread them evenly across the bottom of this casserole dish that I did spray with nonstick spray. Then I took a stick of butter. Yes, a whole stick, because I am using 3 cans of cinnamon rolls here. I melted a whole stick of butter and I added in some brown sugar. I, at the end of the day, did almost half a cup. It's not packed though, so it was probably closer to a third of a cup. And then we mixed it together. And I like to microwave it for another minute or 2, just so that the sugar kind of starts to melt just a little bit. It just makes it a little bit easier. Essentially, this is like a caramel sauce. And when it cooks, that is very much what it is. It is so good. This stuff is magic. Now, I'm using salted butter, but if you are not, be sure and add a pinch of salt right here. You really, really don't want to skip that step. So while that butter was melting and cooking with the brown sugar, I went ahead and put some extra cinnamon on the chopped up cinnamon rolls. I don't want to tell you how to live your life, but I probably did a tablespoon because I love me some cinnamon. You can do as much or as little as you want. You don't have to add it, but I think it's great. If you like chopped nuts, this would be a great recipe to throw some chopped nuts into, some pecans or walnuts. My kids don't like biting into chopped nuts. I didn't as a kid either, so I'm cool with that. So I didn't add any in here, but I evenly poured that brown sugar caramel buttery sauce over the top of those. And then we're going to add some heavy cream. I did close to about a third of a cup of heavy cream. I've got 2 kids, so I did like split it into 2 different batches so that they could both pour the cream in there, because they like to both get to do all the things all the time. So I went ahead and let them do that. It looks like a lot of cream, but this is a 9 by 13 and it filled it. So it's a lot of cinnamon rolls. I promise it's going to be okay, but we pop this in a 350-degree oven until the cinnamon rolls are cooked through. For me, this was also about 30 minutes. I just popped it in there and let it go. And this is what it looks like. And then you just take the icing packets that come with the cinnamon rolls and just drizzle them all over the top of the entire casserole. This might be one of my favorite things on the planet. This is so good. Again, it's like ooey and gooey and rich and sweet and cinnamony. Oh, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. And like I said, it reheats beautifully. So it's great to make in advance for like Thanksgiving morning or Christmas morning. Really good casserole this time of year. Another thing you could do with it is throw in some diced apples. So it's like an apple pie casserole. I've seen people use apple pie filling as well, but I didn't really like that. It stayed a little too doughy for my liking. But anyway, this is what I cooked this week because it was Thanksgiving and we had a really great Thanksgiving. Went to go see my parents, so it was fun. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving too. Just another quick overview of all of our meals. I did serve a salad with the pasta. That beautiful breakfast casserole, man, this one is so good. Do not skip this one. It's absolutely amazing. Again, it's just like a center of the roll. But everything was such a winner. I didn't get an end picture of the breakfast casserole on anybody's plate because it went really, really quickly, but it was so good. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will be back on Tuesday with my grocery haul. I'll see you guys then. Have a fabulous weekend. Bye.